Hello, hello. Welcome to the first recorded English lesson. Hopefully, you are watching this in class. Maybe it's projected on the screen. Maybe you're watching it on your own with headphones or something. But a lot of the English lessons are recorded here. And the reason I do that is because, well, you can always watch it again. Not many people do, but if you didn't understand something, you can watch it again at home. Or if you have COVID or something and you have to be out of class for a few days, you don't miss a beat. You're at home, you can watch the lesson. So 90% of the information that I have to deliver, the teaching, is going to be in video form somehow. So this is the first one. And in this first one, I want to talk about two story elements. Exposition, it's a really tough one because the word has nothing to do with the definition. And then conflict. Conflict is tough because there are a couple of them. And then also without conflict, you really don't have a story. So conflict is super important. So let's talk about exposition first. And to do that, I am going to share the screen here. Probably put on my, and I just erased it. I'm new at this. I did this all last year, but trying to get back in the groove here. So hopefully this pops up. Yeah. So we have something probably looks like it's made for children, but it's good stuff. It actually talks about what exposition is. And once you know the definition, exposition's not that tough. It's just, the word has nothing to do with the definition. So if you look, I'm just going to read there. Like you, all the characters in a story have a history, detail about their pasts that are important to understanding their personalities and their present lives. It's important that readers know some of these details in order to understand a story. So the reason that authors will put exposition into their story, and hopefully you will do the same when you write your nonfiction narrative, is it makes it more believable. If the character just showed up on the page without any kind of history or a past, they don't seem as real. So what the author tries to do, make the characters more real by giving them a history. Like, I use this example quite a bit. If the story starts on a Monday, exposition is all that stuff that happened on Sunday and before. So, I mean, this is not a great example of exposition, but it always is exposition. Like, the character was born. We probably don't see that. We just kind of know it. So, for example, Max swings for the fences. There is going to be a Google form where I ask you to provide two examples of exposition in Max swings for the fences. So one example, I'm kind of giving you the answer here. One example would be, let me get rid of that, would be that he already moved. We didn't see him and his mom packing up things. Like, they're just there. They're at their new house already. But we know he came from a town called New Hartford, I think it is, New York. Could be New Bedford. I think it's New Hartford. Whatever. Bo Fletcher's hometown. So that would be one example of exposition. Another example of exposition is like Bo Fletcher somehow got on the Minnesota Twins. We didn't see him get drafted. We didn't see him like on his first day. He's been there for a while. That happened in the past. I think he donated a large sum of money to a children's hospital or something like that. Bo Fletcher did. Exposition, we don't see it happen. We hear that it happened in the past. Exposition. If you have any questions on exposition, let me know. Now, the next thing, I'm just actually going to pull up the Google form because it can be pretty tough. I'm going to ask you for a couple examples of each of the conflicts, each of the type of conflicts that English teachers love to talk about. Maybe before we do that, we should talk about two phrases and sometimes, or terms. Sometimes I'll pause the video in case, I ask a question and then somebody really smart can answer it, maybe. So I guess the first question I have would be, we need like a good guy and a bad guy. And then English teachers have these fancy terms for them. So, like the main character of the story, it's usually like the hero, the person you are pulling for, they have a name, fancy English term, and then the bad person or bad thing. These don't have to be people, but the thing that is going against our main character. That is what creates the conflict. So I will pause here and we will discuss, just in case nobody got those two things, or just in case you're watching at home, you're like, wait, what? What? So the good person in the story, that's the protagonist. So Max swings to the fences. The protagonist is Max. And I'm trying to do two things at once, talk and then bring up another thing on the screen here. And it's hard for me to do that. It's like walking and chewing gum at the same time. I struggle with that sometimes. Just kidding. So now that we got that out of the way, wait, we didn't talk about what the antagonist is, right? Yeah, antagonist, fancy term, bad thing in the story. So like if you know Marvel movies, I'm sure you guys know this already, like protagonist, antagonist, you probably learned that a couple years ago. Protagonist, like there could be multiple ones, but in the Avengers, protagonist, like let's say Iron Man or whatever, Spider-Man, all the good people or whatever. And then probably at one time or another, like Thanos was the bad person, the protagonist. All right. So this is what the first Google form here. Hopefully you've completed the first day questionnaire or you're working on that. But this would be the next Google form. We do a lot of Google forms in here. Good way to practice writing. Sorry, I know you probably hate writing. Maybe some people probably like it. Some people might hate reading too. I'm sorry. It's just part of it. Hopefully by the end of the year, you will like it a little more or tolerate it. But let me make me a really small here. But you can see, I mean, the first thing is like I'm asking you, like, what's your name? Please fill out your name. That's easy, right? The next one, though, getting right into it. I talked about this. Two major events. Max swings the fences. Could be exposition. And then we get into the conflict stuff. So person versus person. Please create an example of person versus person. That's pretty basic. So what you want to do, please, is for you, this might take a paragraph or so, 3 or 4 sentences, is that you create some sort of conflict. So you need a person having a conflict, a fight, an argument, some kind of struggle with another person. I'm going to come up with one right now. Please don't steal mine. Okay, I'm just making up some names. It's called Tiffany and Jordan. I don't think we have either of those names on our team. I would hate to use one of your names and embarrass you and all that stuff. So Tiffany and Jordan, those are people. I got a person and a person. So I just need to make one of them kind of bad or a struggle. So let's say Jordan. Let's just make the guy a bad guy. Jordan stole Tiffany's money. Those 2 names I used? I hope so. So Jordan stole Tiffany's money. That's going to be a struggle. It's not any like nature. It's not an alien. It's not supernatural. Person versus person. There's a conflict. I'm sure if anybody steals your money, you are going to be mad. Boom. We got ourselves a conflict. Make me small, this bigger, exposition, conflict. The next one, this is the hardest one right here, person versus self. And maybe we'll stop after this one. This one's getting a little long. We're almost at 10 minutes. But the old person versus self conflict. It's at this point I would love to pause. Anybody wants to raise their hand, tell us what person versus self is, but it is probably the hardest one to identify because you really can't see another person that's fighting with themselves. I will say, English teachers love to use stories with person versus self. And we might have a little bit of person versus self going on and max swings to the fences. Now I'm going to pause here and then we'll come back like right now. So hopefully with person versus self, somebody explained it pretty well. I'm sure they'll do better than I will right now, but you need to have that person being their own worst enemy. So your protagonist is their own worst enemy. For example, maybe they have guilt over something they did. Like maybe this happened to me in a sort of way. Maybe I'll tell the story off camera, but it didn't exactly happen to me like this. But let's say somebody was really mad at the school. So after school, they broke a window and maybe they felt really good about it. Yes, I got the school back or whatever. And then after you get this thing, guilt, maybe you're feeling guilty, like, excuse me, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So like they did it to themselves. They are the only ones to blame for the conflict they're experiencing. But guilt or like regret, those are two big ones when it comes to person versus self. So we'll talk more about this. This is going on like 11 minutes, which is plenty of time to listen to me just kind of talk and explain things. So, all right, we'll be done there, but hope this helps.